3 months had passed since the great battle for Velkari Prime. The city was healing, scars slowly fading as Velkari and human workers rebuilt side by side. But everyone knew the war was not over. The swarm still lived out there in the dark, gathering strength, preparing for one final assault. "Hi, Commander." Vareth stood in the strategy room with Captain Linda Morris and Colonel Henry Price. Between them floated a holographic map showing the location of the swarm's main hive world. It was a dark planet on the edge of explored space, covered in twisted organic structures that housed billions of the creatures. "This is where they come from," Vareth said, pointing at the planet. "This is their home. If we destroy the hive, we destroy their ability to breed and spread. The war ends there." Henry studied the map with a critical eye. "How many of them are we looking at?" 30 million, perhaps more," answered a Velkari military strategist named Coldfire. His crystalline body was covered in tactical markings. "They have gathered everything they have left to defend this world. It will be the hardest battle of the war." Linda crossed her arms. "Then we bring everything too. Every ship, every soldier, every animal we have. We hit them with overwhelming force, and we do not stop until that hive is dust." Over the next 2 weeks, the largest military fleet in galactic history assembled above Velkari Prime. 60 Velkari warships, their crystal hulls gleaming in the starlight. 25 Earth vessels, ugly and brutal but deadly effective. And in the cargo holds of transport ships, thousands of animals waited with their handlers. Dogs and wolves, horses and birds, all prepared for one final hunt. Ben Hayes sat in the transport bay with Duke lying beside him. The dog had healed from his injuries, though he moved a bit slower now, and had new scars across his body. Around them, other handlers prepared their animals and checked their equipment. The mood was quiet, serious. Everyone knew what was coming. Kate Morrison walked over and sat down beside Ben. Her wolves were resting in a separate pen, conserved their energy. "You scared?" she asked. Ben thought about it. "Yeah, but Duke is not, so I figure I can be brave for him." Kate smiled. "That is the thing about these animals. They make us better than we are." Across the bay, a young Velkari soldier approached. His name was Shimmer, and he had asked to be assigned to the human units. In his arms, he carried something unexpected. A small creature, furry and four-legged, with big eyes and a wagging tail. "Is that a puppy?" Ben asked, surprised. Shimmer's colors shifted to something embarrassed but happy. "Yes, after the battle I asked if I could learn to be a handler. Your people gave me this one. His name is Spark. I am still learning, but he already trusts me." The puppy licked Shimmer's crystalline hand, and the young Velkari laughed. Ben felt his throat tighten with emotion. "You are doing great. Just remember, he is not a tool. He is a friend." "I know," Shimmer said softly. "I watched Duke fight. I watched how you protected each other. That is what I want. A bond like that." The fleet jumped into the swarm system 12 hours later. What they found waiting for them was a nightmare made real. The hive world was covered in organic towers that reached into space, pulsing with life. Around it, thousands of swarm ships floated like guard dogs protecting their home. And on the surface, visible even from orbit, millions of creatures waited. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her position on the Defender's bridge. "How are we supposed to fight that?" Linda's jaw was set firm. "The same way we have fought everything else, together." The battle began with a massive orbital bombardment. Velkari energy weapons and human kinetic strikes rained down on the hive world. Explosions lit up the dark planet like fireworks. Entire hive structures collapsed, crushing thousands of swarm creatures. But it was not enough. The planet was too big, the hive too spread out. "We need to go down there," Henry said over the command channel. "We need boots on the ground and animals in the fight." "That is the only way to reach the Queen," Vareth agreed. "All landing forces prepare for deployment. This is it. This is where we end the swarm forever." The transports descended through fire and chaos. Swarm ships attacked them, but the fleet's fighters kept them busy. Some transports made it through. Others did not, exploding in brilliant flashes that meant hundreds of soldiers and dozens of animals died before ever reaching the ground. Ben's transport made it. The ramp dropped and he ran out with Duke at his side. The ground was covered in something that felt like wet flesh, pulsing and alive. The air smelled wrong, like rotting meat and chemicals. All around them, hive structures rose like twisted trees, and from every opening, swarm creatures poured out. All units advanced toward the central spire. Linda's voice crackled over the radio. That is where the queen is. That is our target. The combined army pushed forward. Velkhari soldiers fired their plasma weapons while human troops used railguns and missiles, and running between them, through them, ahead of them were the animals of Earth. Dogs raced forward in packs, their noses tracking swarm tunnels that sensors could not detect. When they found hidden enemies, they barked warnings that handlers had learned to understand instantly. Duke found a tunnel that led directly toward the central spire, and Ben marked it on the tactical map. "We have a path," Ben reported. "But it is tight. Only small units can fit," Kate volunteered immediately. "My wolves can go. They are made for tight spaces." She led 20 wolves into the tunnel with a squad of Velkhari soldiers following. The tunnel was dark and narrow, the walls made of organic matter that seemed to breathe. The wolves moved confidently, their eyes adjusted to the darkness, their ears tracking every sound. They found swarm creatures waiting in ambush, but the wolves attacked before the bugs could spring their trap. Ghost led the pack, his teeth finding throats and joints, his massive body slamming bugs against the walls. The Velkhari soldiers followed, their weapons finishing what the wolves started. Above ground, Colonel Henry Price led the cavalry in a charge across open ground. Thunder and 40 other horses thundered across the fleshy terrain, their armored hooves crushing smaller swarm creatures. The bugs tried to stop them with sheer numbers, but horses were not like machines. They could feel the battle, could react to threats faster than any programming. Henry fired his weapon from horseback, taking down bugs left and right. Beside him, a Velkhari warrior rode a horse of her own, the first of her species to learn cavalry tactics. Her name was Softglow, the medic who had healed Duke, and she rode with fierce determination. "For Velkhari Prime," she shouted, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "For Earth. For all of us." In the sky, Carl White and his squadron of pilots worked with their hawks to coordinate strikes. Razor had learned to identify the hive's weak points, the places where the organic structure was thinnest. Every time the hawk spotted one, Carl would call in gunships to blast through. "Target acquired," Carl called out. "Razor says this wall leads directly to the Queen's chamber." The gunships opened fire, tearing through the organic barrier. Behind the wall was a massive cavern, and at its center was the Swarm Queen. She was enormous, easily 300 feet tall, with armor that looked like black metal. Around her, tens of thousands of warrior bugs formed a protective wall. "All forces converge on this position," Linda ordered. "This is it." The army poured into the cavern from multiple entry points. Kate and her wolves emerged from the tunnels. Henry and the cavalry charged in from the eastern entrance. Ben and the dog teams came from the west. And behind them all, thousands of Velkhari and human soldiers advanced in formation. The Queen screamed, a sound that shook the cavern and made the walls crack. Her warriors charged forward, and the final battle began. It was chaos, pure violent chaos. Dogs and wolves fought alongside soldiers. Horses crushed bugs under their hooves while their riders fired weapons. Hawks dove from the cavern ceiling, striking at the Queen's eyes, blinding her. And slowly, step by step, the combined force pushed toward the Queen herself. Duke saved Ben's life twice in those final moments. Once by pulling him away from a collapsing hive structure. Again by tackling a swarm warrior that was about to strike from behind. Ben returned the favor by shooting 3 bugs that tried to swarm Duke. Ghost and his pack reached the Queen first. They were tiny compared to her, but they attacked her legs, trying to cripple her. The Queen swept her massive claws, catching 2 wolves and sending them flying. But the rest kept coming, kept biting, kept fighting. Then Shimmer appeared, running faster than Ben thought possible. The young Velkhari had his puppy Spark in a protective carrier on his back, and he carried a Velkhari plasma lance. He ran straight at the Queen, firing the lance at her eyes. The beam struck true, and the Queen screamed again, this time in pain. "For my world," Shimmer shouted. "For my new friends." Other soldiers followed his lead. Velkhari and human, fighting together, focusing all their fire on the Queen. Her armor began to crack. Her movements became slower, and when Henry and Thunder charged in, the colonel drove his lance through a crack in her chest armor. The Queen fell, slowly like a building collapsing. She toppled sideways and crashed into the cavern floor. The impact sent shockwaves through the entire hive, and around the galaxy, every swarm creature connected to her mind stopped moving. They simply shut down, their hive mind severed. The emergency alarm echoed through the massive council chamber, cutting through the usual calm discussions. Ambassador Velth jumped slightly in his floating seat, his 3 fingers gripping the armrest. Something was very wrong. In 300 years, the Galactic Council had never called an emergency meeting like this. Velth looked around the circular room at the other representatives. 12 different species sat in their specialized chairs, each designed for their unique bodies. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few had smooth skin in colors ranging from blue to purple. All of them looked worried. The peaceful galaxy they had built together was facing something unexpected. Coordinator Threx floated to the center of the room. Her species communicated through clicking sounds, but the translator devices everyone wore made her words clear. "We have received a distress signal," she announced. "The location is troubling. It comes from the Forbidden Zone, near the spiral arm of the galaxy." A holographic image appeared above them, showing a section of space that most species avoided. The Forbidden Zone was called that for good reason. It bordered regions no one had fully explored. Strange worlds existed there, planets so hostile that the survey teams refused to go back. "What kind of ship sent the signal?" asked Counselor Dren. His scales shifted from green to dark blue the way they always did when he felt nervous. "We don't know," Threx replied. "The ship design is not in our database. We have never seen anything like it." Velth felt his heart beat faster. The Council had detailed records of every species that traveled through space in their region. They had made contact with hundreds of civilizations over the centuries. How could there be a ship they didn't recognize? "Show us the vessel," Velth requested. The hologram changed, displaying a spacecraft that looked nothing like Council ships. Where Council vessels were smooth and elegant, this ship was rough and angular. Deep scorch marks covered its hull. Large dents and holes suggested it had been through terrible battles. It looked less like a ship built for exploration and more like something designed to survive wars. "Could it be from the uncharted regions?" someone asked. "Most likely," Threx confirmed. "That area contains hundreds of worlds we have never properly surveyed. Some of them are categorized as Deathworlds." The word sent a chill through the chamber. Deathworlds were planets where everything seemed designed to kill. Extreme temperatures, crushing gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators, and toxic environments. The Council studied such planets from a safe distance, but they never expected intelligent life to develop there. The conditions were simply too harsh. "We must respond to the distress call," Threx continued. "Galactic law requires us to help any vessel in trouble. I am sending the rescue frigate Harmony's Light. They will approach carefully and assess the situation." No one argued, but Velth noticed that no one volunteered to go either. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog. Captain Zex commanded the Harmony's Light, a rescue ship designed to help stranded vessels. He was known for being careful and following every safety procedure. When he received the mission orders, he made sure his crew understood the risks. "We are dealing with an unknown species from an unknown world," he told them during the briefing. "Everyone stays alert. Weapons remain charged. We help them, but we take no chances." The journey to the distress signal took 2 days. As they got closer, Zex ordered every scanner focused on the damaged ship. His crew worked quietly, each one aware they might be making history or making a terrible mistake. "I have readings on the life forms inside," announced the scanner officer. Her voice shook slightly. "Captain, these numbers don't make sense. The creatures inside that ship are extremely dense. They weigh 3 times more than they should for their size." "What does that mean?" Zex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "It means they evolved in very high gravity, sir. Much higher than our standard. I'm also reading temperature tolerances that range from extreme cold to extreme heat, and their resistance to radiation is far beyond anything in our records." Zex felt his body go cold. "They're from a death world." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member understood what that meant. Deathworlders were supposed to be theoretical. Creatures from such harsh planets focused all their energy on survival. They didn't develop art, science, or space travel. They couldn't. The environment killed them before they had the chance to build civilizations, except somehow, impossibly, these beings had done exactly that. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer said. "Audio only. The signal is damaged, but I can clean it up." "Play it," Zex ordered. The voice that came through the speakers made everyone freeze. It was deep and powerful, with strange qualities that seemed to vibrate through their bones even though it came from speakers. The universal translator struggled for a moment before converting the sounds into words they could understand. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Odyssey. We have suffered catastrophic damage. Our life support systems are failing. We have 43 souls aboard. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. Earth. The word meant nothing to any database the Council had. Another mystery to add to the growing pile. Respond, Zex ordered, fighting every instinct that told him to run. Tell them help is on the way. While the communication team sent their reply, Zex ordered his science team to find information about Earth. What they discovered 2 hours later made him wish he had never asked. The science officer's face was pale as she delivered her report. Sir, we located their home planet. It's the third planet orbiting a yellow star. The readings are horrifying. She displayed the data on the main screen. Zex read through it with growing disbelief. Earth had gravity more than 3 times the Council standard. 70% of the surface was covered in salty water that would corrode most Council materials. The planet experienced constant earthquakes from tectonic activity. Weather patterns included hurricanes with winds that could destroy buildings, tornadoes that could lift vehicles into the air, and blizzards that could freeze exposed flesh in minutes. Temperature variations ranged over 100 degrees depending on location and season. The atmosphere had been toxic until plant life slowly changed it over billions of years. A massive moon pulled at the oceans, creating dramatic tides, and the planet teemed with millions of species, many of them predators. Nothing intelligent should come from a world like that, Zex whispered. The odds are impossible. Sir, they're hailing us again, the communications officer interrupted. Visual this time. Zex took a deep breath. Put it on screen. The image appeared and every crew member stopped breathing. The human named Jake Morrison looked exactly like what he was, a predator from a nightmare world. He stood on 2 legs, but his build suggested power and danger. His eyes pointed forward, the mark of a hunter who tracked prey. Muscles showed even through his uniform. Hair grew on his head and face in patterns the crew found strange and unsettling. When Jake smiled, trying to appear friendly, they saw his teeth. Flat ones for grinding, sharp ones for tearing. An omnivore, then. Something that ate both plants and meat. Something that hunted. Thank God, Jake said, and his relief seemed genuine despite his frightening appearance. I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We're a long way from home and in serious trouble. Our fusion core is failing and we've lost gravity plating on 3 decks. Can you help us? Zex forced himself to speak normally. This is Captain Zex of the Harmony's Light. We will help you. Prepare your crew for our recovery teams. Understood, Captain. And thank you. You're literally saving our lives here. The transmission ended. Zex looked at his crew and saw his own fear reflected in every face. They had just made contact with a species that shouldn't exist, Deathworlders who had somehow survived long enough to build ships and travel the stars. Contact the Galactic Council, Zex said quietly. Tell them we've made first contact with a new species, and tell them the galaxy is about to change forever. As the Harmony's light moved closer to the damaged Odyssey, Zex couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would be remembered for generations. The peaceful, careful council was about to meet humanity. And humanity, forged in the fires of the most hostile world any of them had ever documented, was about to meet the civilized galaxy. Neither would ever be the same again. The universe had spent billions of years creating these impossible survivors. Now they were here, reaching out across the stars. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for them, whether peace could survive the arrival of warriors from a world designed to create fighters. Zex didn't know the answer, but he was about to find out. The docking procedure took much longer than normal. Captain Zex watched through the external cameras as the human ship slowly approached the Harmony's light. The Odyssey was built so differently from Council vessels that their airlocks barely fit together. Everything about the human ship spoke of strength and durability. The hull plating was twice as thick as necessary by Council standards. The structural supports could probably survive impacts that would destroy most ships, Zex knew. Medical Officer Kren appeared beside him, her tablet displaying atmospheric readings. Captain, I've analyzed their air requirements. They breathe oxygen, like many species, but the concentration is much higher than ours. Almost dangerous levels, Zex nodded slowly. Oxygen was a highly reactive gas. A high oxygen atmosphere meant high energy biology. These humans would burn through calories quickly, need to eat frequently, and probably move with startling speed when necessary. Everything about them was built for a high-performance existence. What about contamination risks? Zex asked. Kren's expression showed both fascination and concern. Their world is covered in microbial life. Billions and billions of tiny organisms everywhere. Even inside their bodies, they carry entire ecosystems of bacteria. But Captain, I don't think they'll harm us. Their medical knowledge appears extensive. They understand disease and contamination better than we do, probably because their world is so hostile. So we can interact safely? I believe so. I recommend our teams wear protective suits just to be cautious. But the humans seem to understand our concerns. They've already suggested quarantine protocols. The airlock finally sealed with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Through the viewing window, Zex watched the first humans emerge from their damaged ship. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for creatures so dense and heavy. Some stumbled slightly in the lower gravity, then adjusted almost instantly. Their ability to adapt was remarkable and unsettling. Commander Jake Morrison led the group. His uniform was torn and stained, showing he had been through the same disaster as his ship. Behind him came humans of different sizes and appearances. Zex had read that humans showed unusual diversity in their physical features. Some had dark skin, others light. Hair came in different colors and textures. It was another adaptation from their complex world where different environments required different traits. Captain Zex. Jake's voice came through the communication system. Permission to come aboard? Granted, Commander Morrison. Welcome to the Harmony's Light. The humans gathered in the docking bay. Several looked exhausted. A few were carrying injured crew members with surprising ease despite their own fatigue. One woman with her dark hair pulled back in a tight style was treating a man's burned arm. She worked quickly and confidently, with the sure movements of someone who had dealt with medical emergencies many times before. She approached the viewing window. I'm Lieutenant Casey Brooks, Chief Medical Officer of the Odyssey. Some of my people need immediate attention. Burns, broken bones, injuries from decompression. Can your medical facilities handle human physiology? Kren stepped forward. I am Medical Officer Kren. I will do everything I can, though your biology is very different from anything I have treated before. Casey smiled, and Zex noticed she kept her lips closed to hide her teeth. She was already learning how to seem less threatening. I can provide detailed medical information. Humans heal relatively fast compared to what I've seen in your biological databases, but we still need help with severe injuries. You've studied other species? Zex asked, surprised. Jake answered from behind Casey. Theoretically, yes. We've been listening to space radio signals for over 100 years. We picked up transmissions, learned languages, built profiles of different species. We knew other civilizations were out here. It just took us a while to develop the technology to reach you. The implication startled Zex. These Deathworlders hadn't accidentally stumbled into space. They had climbed deliberately toward the stars, knowing they weren't alone, preparing themselves for contact. That showed remarkable intelligence and planning. Over the next several hours, both crews worked together to help the injured humans. Zex watched the interactions carefully. The humans were patient and careful. They explained their medical needs clearly. They offered suggestions without being demanding. They understood perfectly well that they were strange and frightening, and they actively tried to be less threatening. A human named Marcus Webb particularly impressed the engineering teams. Despite having broken ribs and a head injury himself, he insisted on helping repair the docking systems. He worked alongside Zex's engineers, translating human technical specifications and finding creative solutions when systems didn't match. Your fusion reactor uses magnetic plasma confinement? Marcus asked, studying their power system diagrams with bright analytical eyes. That's brilliant. We use a different design called a tokamak, less efficient than yours but more stable if the ship takes damage in combat. Combat? Zex felt his anxiety rise again. You design your ships expecting to fight? Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. Earth isn't unified yet, Captain. We have different nations and groups. Sometimes they have conflicts. Space vessels need to be tough because they might face hostile action from rivals. Also, there's a lot of dangerous debris in our solar system. Asteroids, comets, space junk. We build everything to take punishment and keep working. Of course they did. On a death world, everything was a potential threat, even their own people. In the medical bay, Casey worked beside Kren, showing her detailed displays of human anatomy. We have remarkable resilience, she explained. Redundant organs, aggressive immune systems, fast tissue regeneration. We evolved to take damage and survive it. But you still feel pain? Kren asked while treating a man named Patrick Cole who had deep cuts across his chest and arms. Patrick actually laughed despite his injuries. Oh yes, we feel pain very clearly. Pain teaches us what to avoid. We've just learned to function through it when we have no choice. You do what you must to survive. That evening, by the ship's time schedule, Jake Morrison requested a private meeting with Captain Zex in the observation deck. The room offered a clear view of space, and in the distance Earth hung like a blue and white jewel against the darkness. Beautiful and deadly. Your world is remarkable, Zex admitted honestly. Terrifying, but remarkable. It's home, Jake said simply. We don't know anything different. Is it really so much worse than other planets? Commander, most council worlds have gravity half of yours or less. Weather is stable and predictable. Natural predators are rare. We consider a world dangerous if seasonal temperatures vary by 20 degrees. Your planet has temperature swings of 100 degrees or more depending on where you are. Jake absorbed this information quietly. I suppose we got the difficult start in life. But that difficulty made us strong. It made us adaptable. Strong and frightening, Zex said with complete honesty. You must understand, Commander. The galaxy has never encountered anything like your species. Deathworlders aren't supposed to develop space travel. The mathematical odds against it are enormous. But we did reach space, Jake pointed out. And we're not here to conquer anyone or destroy anything. We came looking for friends, for knowledge, for a place among the stars. Yes, we're tough. Yes, we're dangerous if someone threatens us. But we're also curious, compassionate, and creative. We're survivors, Captain. That's what Earth teaches best. You survive by adapting, by cooperating with others, by being smarter than the threats around you. Intelligence and cooperation got us off our world, not just brute strength. Zex wanted to believe him. The past hours had shown that humans could be gentle despite their predatory nature. Casey had been kind to his medical staff. Marcus had been helpful and patient with the engineers. Jake himself had been respectful and understanding. But fear wasn't based on logic. It was instinctive and deep. The Galactic Council will want to meet your people, Zex said. They'll have many questions. And concerns. We understand, Jake assured him. We'll answer honestly and do our best to prove we're worthy of joining the galactic community. However long that takes, we're prepared to wait and work for it. What if they reject contact? What if they decide humans are too dangerous? Jake considered the question seriously. We'd be disappointed. Deeply disappointed. But we'd respect the decision. We'd continue developing on our own, exploring our local space and hoping that someday you might reconsider. We're patient people, Captain. You have to be patient when your world fights you every single day. In the distance, Earth continued its rotation, indifferent to the conversation happening in orbit. That world had spent billions of years forging these remarkable, terrifying creatures. It had thrown every challenge at them. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, climate extremes, resource scarcity. And somehow, instead of being destroyed, humans had thrived. They had developed tools, language, culture, science, and eventually spacecraft. Now they had reached beyond their hostile world and met the peaceful galaxy. Two completely different ways of existing were about to collide. I'll send my report to the Council, Zex said. I'll tell them what I've observed. That humans are dangerous, yes, but also intelligent and capable of restraint. The journey to the Galactic Council's central station took 6 standard days. During that time, the Odyssey remained attached to the Harmony's light like an injured animal being carried to safety. Captain Zex watched with growing fascination as the human crew gradually recovered from their ordeal and adapted to life aboard his ship. The humans were everywhere, always polite and careful, but endlessly curious. They asked questions about everything. How did the gravity plating work? What fuel did the engines use? Where did different crew members come from? Jake Morrison had established strict rules for his people, understanding how unsettling their presence was. No sudden movements. Keep smiles closed-mouthed to hide teeth. Maintain respectful distance. Stay only in approved areas. But curiosity worked both ways. Zex found himself drawn to the observation deck, where several humans often gathered during their off hours. Tonight he found Casey Brooks and Marcus Webb reviewing star charts on a portable display. This is absolutely incredible, Marcus was saying, gesturing at the holographic map. 70 different species in the Council, and thousands more on planets that haven't developed space travel yet. The galaxy is ancient and vast, Zex explained, moving closer. Life emerges wherever conditions permit it. Most species follow similar evolutionary paths: prey animals that developed intelligence to avoid predators, herd creatures that learned cooperation. Very few predator species ever develop advanced civilization. Because predators are too aggressive? Casey asked, turning to look at him. Generally, yes. Predator psychology emphasizes individual achievement and territorial behavior, competition rather than cooperation. These traits work against the complex social structures needed for technology and space travel. Humans are predators, Marcus said quietly, but we're also prey. Earth has plenty of things that hunt us. Large cats, bears, crocodiles, sharks, even some insects can kill us. We developed intelligence to survive threats from every direction. Zex hadn't considered that perspective. Deathworlds produced complex ecosystems where everything was both hunter and hunted. Humans carried traits of both predator and prey, which explained some of their contradictions. Aggressive when threatened but cooperative in groups. Competitive but capable of remarkable teamwork. Tell me about your governments, Zex requested. Marcus mentioned Earth isn't unified. Casey pulled up a simplified map showing various colored regions covering the planet's surface. We have roughly 200 independent nations, separate governments controlling different territories. They cooperate on some things and compete on others. The Odyssey is part of an international effort. 17 different nations pooled resources to build her. You achieved space travel while divided. Zex found this astonishing. Every council species had unified their entire planet before reaching the stars. It was considered a basic requirement for mature civilization. Competition drives us, Marcus admitted, but so does cooperation. We fight sometimes, yes, but we also help each other during disasters. Our greatest achievements happen when we work together. The Odyssey represents that hope, that we can be better together than apart. Before Zex could respond, alarm sirens suddenly blared throughout the ship. His communicator crackled urgently. Captain, we're detecting multiple vessels approaching at high speed. Attack formation. They're not responding to our identification signals. Pirates. This region had been suffering raids for months. Zex ran toward the bridge, and despite his gesture for them to stay behind, both humans followed him. The main screen showed 4 ships, smaller than the Harmony's light, but clearly armed and dangerous. They surrounded the rescue frigate in a classic attack pattern, cutting off escape routes. Shields up, Zex ordered immediately. Charge weapons. Transmit our council identification codes. They're jamming our communications, sir, his weapons officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. Captain, they're targeting our engines. The first energy blast struck before Zex could give another order. The ship shuddered violently. Emergency lights flickered across the bridge. Shields at 60%. Sir, they're using military-grade plasma cannons. Our shields won't hold long. Jake Morrison burst onto the bridge at that moment. His face was calm, but his eyes held the focused intensity of a hunting animal. Captain, let us help. This isn't your fight, Commander, Zex started to say, but another violent impact cut him off. The ship lurched sideways. Sir, shields failing rapidly. We can't outrun them, and our weapons aren't designed for real combat. We're a rescue ship. Jake moved quickly to an empty console. Marcus, get to engineering right now. Casey, coordinate with medical for incoming casualties. Captain Zex, with your permission, I can connect the Odyssey's weapon systems through your computer network. She's damaged, but her weapons still function. Zex made a split-second decision based on trust he wasn't sure he should have. Do it. Jake's fingers moved across the controls with practiced speed and precision. In less than 30 seconds, the Odyssey's combat systems came online, integrated with the Harmony's light's targeting sensors. Targeting solution acquired, Jake said, his voice eerily calm. Captain, I need your authorization to fire. These are living beings, Zex protested even as another impact rocked the ship. They're attacking a medical rescue vessel, Jake countered firmly. I'm not asking permission to kill them, just to disable their ability to hurt you. Trust me, sir. Another massive impact. Shields dropped to 30%. The next hit would breach the hull and people would die. Do it, Zex ordered. The Odyssey's railgun activated with a high-pitched whine that Zex felt through the deck plates. Magnetic accelerators, Jake had called them. Kinetic weapons that fired solid metal projectiles at tremendous speeds. Simple, brutal, and devastatingly effective. The first shot struck a pirate vessel's engine section with surgical precision. The ship went completely dark, tumbling away helplessly into space. The second shot destroyed another ship's weapon systems, leaving it defenseless but intact. The third and fourth shots disabled the remaining vessels in rapid succession. Total engagement time, 47 seconds. The bridge sat in absolute stunned silence. Jake calmly shut down the weapon systems and turned to face them. Hostile vessels neutralized. All pirate crews appear to be intact and alive. I targeted only propulsion and weapon systems. They'll need rescue, but they'll survive. How did you do that? Sex whispered, his voice barely audible. Practice, Jake said simply. Earth's military forces train constantly. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years, Captain. We're very, very good at it. The words chilled Zex to his core. These humans were born warriors from a warrior world. Even their rescue mission carried lethal capabilities. But Jake wasn't finished speaking. Captain, I know that was frightening to witness. But understand something important. We didn't kill them. We could have. The Odyssey carries weapons designed to destroy asteroid fortresses. We could have vaporized those ships and everyone aboard. But we didn't, because that's not who we are. We're dangerous when we must be, but we choose mercy when we can. Casey arrived on the bridge carrying medical supplies. Anyone injured? Zex realized with surprise that his entire crew was unharmed. Jake had ended the fight so quickly that no one had been hurt. The human had protected them all. Thank you, Commander, Zex said, and he meant it with his entire being. You saved our lives. You saved ours first, Jake replied. That's what civilized people do. They help each other. News of the incident reached the Galactic Council before the Harmony's light arrived at the station. When they finally docked 3 days later, Zex faced an emergency tribunal. Ambassador Velth led the questioning, and he did not look happy. You allowed an unknown species access to weapon systems on a council vessel? They saved my ship and my entire crew, Zex defended strongly. The humans showed remarkable restraint. They disabled the threat without causing a single casualty. Because they're efficient killers, Counselor Dren argued, his scales dark with agitation. This incident proves they're too dangerous to allow into council space. It proves they're capable and disciplined, Zex countered. They could have destroyed those pirates easily. They deliberately chose not to kill. That shows moral character, not just military skill. The debate continued for hours. Zex presented his detailed logs, his crew's testimonies, and all the evidence of human behavior during the rescue. The humans had been helpful, respectful, and careful. They had saved council lives twice now, once by accepting rescue and once by providing protection. Finally, after much argument, the council agreed to meet the humans directly. Jake Morrison stood before the assembled representatives of 70 species. This commander from a death world faced the galaxy's leadership alone, representing all of humanity. He wore a clean uniform, stood at relaxed attention, and showed no fear whatsoever. Members of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice clear and steady. We come in peace. We know we're different from you. We know we're frightening. Our world made us strong because it had to. But it also taught us cooperation, compassion, and creativity. We're not asking to join you immediately. We know we need to prove ourselves worthy. All we ask is a chance. Let us show you who humanity can be. Judge us by our actions, not by your fears. 6 months passed since first contact, and the Galactic Council built an embassy station in orbit around Earth. The structure gleamed against the darkness of space, a symbol of hope and careful cooperation. Inside, representatives from 15 different species lived and worked alongside humans, learning about each other and what everyone hoped would become a lasting friendship. Lieutenant Casey Brooks had been assigned as the chief medical liaison, helping alien species understand human biology. Today, she was conducting a demonstration for a group of visiting Kiksari scientists who seemed both fascinated and disturbed by what they were learning. The human immune system is extremely aggressive, Casey explained, showing a holographic image of white blood cells attacking a virus. We evolved surrounded by countless bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Our bodies developed powerful defenses. What seems like an overreaction to you is completely normal for us. One of the Kiksari scientists, named Plex, stared at the display with all 3 of his eyes wide. Your cells actively hunt and consume threats? That's remarkably violent even at a microscopic level. Casey laughed gently. I suppose it is. Earth doesn't really do peaceful, not even inside our bodies. But this aggressive response keeps us alive in an environment full of diseases. Meanwhile, in another section of the station, Marcus Webb worked with a mixed team of engineers on an ambitious project. They were trying to combine human and council technologies to create better fusion reactors. The collaboration had produced interesting challenges and surprising breakthroughs. The fundamental problem, explained a Plinar engineer named Seft, is that our systems prioritize safety over power output. Your human systems prioritize output over safety. Because our environments demand maximum efficiency, Marcus agreed, reviewing technical drawings. On Earth, power density matters enormously. We need the most energy from the smallest space because every kilogram counts in our higher gravity. But we've also learned to make dangerous systems stable through extensive safety protocols. Let me show you our containment designs. The collaborative work yielded remarkable results. Human structural engineering, developed to withstand earthquakes and hurricanes, significantly improved reactor housing durability. Council monitoring systems refined over centuries of cautious development made human reactors much safer. Together they created something superior to what either could build alone. But not everyone embraced humanity's presence. A coalition of species led by Councillor Dren continued pushing for stricter limitations on human activity. They held regular meetings to discuss the perceived threat that Deathworlders represented. Jake Morrison addressed the council again, this time with 6 months of peaceful cooperation to support his arguments. We've shared our medical knowledge freely. Human trauma care techniques have already saved lives across multiple species. Our engineering consultations have improved safety standards on 17 different station types. We've taught self-defense courses to security personnel who voluntarily requested training. Yes, we're capable of violence, but we've demonstrated we can control that capability and use it responsibly. You teach others to fight, Dren accused, his scales shifting to an angry red color. You spread your violent nature to peaceful species. We teach others to protect themselves, Jake corrected firmly. There's an important difference, Counselor. The galaxy has pirates, raiders, and hostile forces. Pretending they don't exist doesn't make anyone safer. We lived on a world that punished weakness and ignorance. That taught us the crucial difference between strength used for aggression and strength used for protection. Ambassador Velth, who had become cautiously supportive of humanity over the months, intervened before the argument could escalate. The Council will vote on expanded human privileges next month. Until then, current restrictions remain in place. The debate was suddenly interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the Council chamber. An emergency distress signal had arrived from a frontier colony world. Raiders, not common pirates but an organized military force, had attacked the settlement. The colony housed over 50,000 civilians, mostly Kikshari and Threxian families. The nearest Council defense fleet is 8 days away, Coordinator Threx announced, her voice heavy with concern. The colony cannot hold out that long against a sustained military assault. Jake stepped forward immediately. How far is the colony from here? 43 light years. Why do you ask? The human fleet carrier Enterprise is currently in Earth orbit. She's designed for rapid response operations. We can reach the colony in 36 hours. The Council chamber erupted into chaos. Multiple representatives spoke at once, arguing loudly. Sending human warships seemed to confirm every fear about their military nature. The Enterprise is a military vessel. Dren protested strongly. This could be a calculated plan to establish military control over Council territory. It's a rescue mission, Jake insisted. We have 400 trained Marines ready for emergency evacuation operations. Our ships are fast and heavily armored. We can help save those people. Or you could conquer the colony and claim it as human territory, Dren countered. Casey stood up from the medical section, her voice cutting through the noise. 50,000 innocent people will die if we spend 8 days debating this. I'm a doctor. I took an oath to protect life. So did every human on this station. Let us help. Or sit here knowing you could have saved those civilians but chose not to. The weight of her words settled heavily over the entire assembly. No one spoke for several long moments. Finally, Coordinator Threx made the difficult decision. The Enterprise is authorized to respond. But understand clearly, Commander Morrison, the entire galaxy will be watching. If humanity proves itself trustworthy here, it will change everything. If you fail or betray this trust, it will end your species' hope for integration forever. We understand completely, Jake said with absolute seriousness. We won't let you down. 22 hours later, the Enterprise dropped out of faster-than-light travel above the besieged colony. The human carrier was massive, dwarfing the raider vessels like a whale among fish. Its armor plating and weapon arrays made the attackers look like children's toys. Captain Helen Cross commanded the Enterprise, a woman with 30 years of military experience and a reputation for both capability and restraint. She broadcast on all communication frequencies. "Attention, raider vessels. This is Captain Helen Cross of the Earth Fleet Carrier Enterprise. You are attacking a Galactic Council colony in direct violation of interstellar law. Cease fire immediately and surrender, or we will engage with full force." The raiders made a critical mistake. They responded with weapons fire. Human Marines deployed in armored dropships, specialized craft designed to punch through enemy fire and deliver soldiers directly into combat zones. They descended toward the colony surface in coordinated waves, establishing defensive positions with practiced precision. The raiders had expected easy prey. Instead, they found themselves facing soldiers who had trained in Earth's crushing gravity and thrived in its hostile environment. Staff Sergeant Nina Cruz led her squad through the colony's damaged streets, evacuating terrified civilians while under constant fire. She moved with the enhanced strength and endurance of someone born in high gravity, carrying injured colonists to safety with one arm while returning accurate fire with the other. "Friendlies coming through," she called out, her translator converting the warning into Galactic Common. A group of frightened Kikshari families huddled inside a collapsed building. "We're here to help. Stay close behind us and keep moving." The raiders quickly learned that humans didn't just fight effectively, they fought intelligently. Superior tactics combined with their natural physical advantages and their willingness to absorb punishment that would kill most species turned the battle decisively. Within 6 hours, the raider force retreated in disorder, leaving their wounded behind. The final casualty count shocked everyone: 0 civilian deaths. The colonists were frightened and traumatized, but alive, every single one. When the Enterprise departed 3 days later, after ensuring the colony was secure and Council defense forces had arrived to maintain order, they left behind something unexpected. Not fear, but genuine gratitude. The recordings spread rapidly across Council communication networks. Humans carrying wounded colonists to safety with gentle care, human doctors treating injuries with skilled competence, human engineers repairing damaged infrastructure and teaching locals how to maintain it, and human soldiers, these deadly Deathworld warriors, playing simple games with Kixari children in refugee centers, sharing their food rations, offering comfort and reassurance. The vote on expanded human privileges passed unanimously 2 weeks later. Counselor Dren, showing integrity that Jake respected, approached him personally after the vote. "I was wrong about your species," he admitted honestly. "I allowed fear to cloud my judgment and reason. You proved that strength and compassion aren't mutually exclusive traits. They can and should exist together." "We're not perfect beings," Jake said with equal honesty. "We make mistakes constantly. We have conflicts and serious problems, but we're trying to be better than we were. That's all anyone can do, really. Try to improve. Try to be better than yesterday.